Good afternoon, and welcome to Prog Monster. My name's Murph. I'm the host of this show. So today I'm going to be starting a new series for my playlist, which is going to be called Biggest Disappointments. This could be something like the band puts out an album that you really don't like, or perhaps they take a musical change in direction, which really is big and disappointing to you, or somebody leaves the band who you really liked, or they replace somebody you really like with somebody you don't really like, or the band folds and doesn't make any more music. All these different type of things that make for a disappointment. So I'm going to start off my inaugural I can't say the word one video biggest disappointment with probably one of my larger disappointments in rock history for me. And that's all this is about. It's just my disappointments. If you've got disappointments about certain things, you could leave that in the comments and we can discuss it. That'd be great. Anyways, today we're going to talk about one of my largest disappointments in music, my musical history, which is with my favorite band, which was Rush. I was a huge Rush fan in I guess it started with probably I think it was either the Midnight Special or the Don Kirshner Rock Concert. I think it was probably Don Kirshner Rock Concert. They did a video, a performance where I think they did Farewell to Kings and Close to the Heart, or it could have been Xanadu and Close to the Heart, but I think it was one or the other. Anyways, that started my interest in Rush, and then one time I went to the library and they had the Fly By Night album, and I took that out and listened to it for a couple weeks, and that really started to make this band of interest to me. But my first real Rush album was Permanent Waves, and that launched them. I started going back and getting all their stuff after that, and they became my favorite band in around like 1980, and it stayed that way till about 83, and probably would have continued indefinitely. But then they released Signals, which was a good album. I liked it. I listened to it a lot, but it just felt like it was different than any of their other stuff. And then they released this, Grace Under Pressure. Sorry, I've got the screen facing the wrong way, but I loathed this album when I first heard it. I didn't even buy it. My friend got it, and we listened to it, and I said, I can't stand this album. I hate it. And that wouldn't have been such a bad thing, like getting everybody puts out a bad album here and there. It's not a big deal, right? It does happen. I mean, all my other bands have done it as well, but for some reason, it was such a huge disappointment. I refused to listen to anything they did for the next, I'm going to say, about 20 years, until my daughter's birth. And then I was working another job where I was in my car a lot, so I started listening to some of my records again because I had opportunity to do so, right? And I had my Rush collection out, and I started getting back into the band, and then shortly after, within a couple of years, they put out Snakes and Arrows, and then the band just took off again for me, and they became my favorite band again. And I since have gone back and got this album and some of the other ones that came out after it, and I actually have listened to this a few times, and I'm warming up to it and everything. But the part that was disappointing is that I stopped listening to them because of this album, and refused to listen to them, and I missed 20 years of their history, and I'm disappointed with that because it left me feeling kind of like I abandoned the group and stuff like that. But the truth of the matter is that I went on to try different stuff, so inevitably it didn't end up being such a bad thing. But it stalled my history with Rush for 20 years anyways, at least I would say from about 83 until maybe 2002. So yeah, a good 20 years. And they weren't my favorite band after that either. Yes replaced them as my favorite band for a good 20 years, and Yes had its own issues as well. But so, and I don't think that the album itself is all that bad. It's just that it became very synthetic, and it wasn't up to what I had been used to be hearing from them. Going back all the way to Fly By Night, and even the first album. Um, they just progressively got better for me, and I liked their music quite a bit. And this just seemed like a huge disappointment. And the next few albums were even worse, in my opinion. And right up until Presto, which was, oh God, I can't even begin to describe how loathsome that album made me feel. And I never listened to a lot of this stuff until later. I would hear it on the radio and just say, yeah, it's just the same. It's all the same. I've had enough of them. And it's unfortunate because the musicianship is still here. It was still there. They just wanted to try something different, and I wasn't very open-minded at 19 years old to take that. It was just, I wanted my Rush the way it was, and then it wasn't, and then I wanted nothing to do with it, So now, when stuff like this happens with bands or whatever, I don't take it on so much. I may say, okay, this circumstance is not really what I like, but it might change again and go back the other way. So I tend to give them a little more time and a little more of a chance, But that was one of my biggest disappointments in rock and roll history. The Rush changing their style of music, and I don't think I'm alone in this either. I think there's plenty of people out there who felt quite a bit the same as I did when this album came out. Some of them have since given them another chance, and let the band back in, and actually gone on to like some of the stuff that disappointed them early on. And what they call that is that your musical taste, and your interest in music changes over time. The things that you liked when you're 19 and 20 years old aren't necessarily the same things you like at 30 or 40 or even 50 and beyond, right? And some forms of music I didn't like in my early teens and 20s. Like, I would never have listened to Jethro Tull back then, or even The Who, because the music was too kind of rhythm and bluesy, which I really didn't like much. I wanted prog music, or I wanted really hard stuff. I didn't want any of that bluesy stuff, right? But so this is an incident where I had expectations of a band that weren't fulfilled to my satisfaction, and then I just had nothing to do with the band. And I think, like I said, I think this isn't an uncommon thing. I think it happens quite a bit, and it certainly happened with this album. I think there's a lot of Rush fans who felt the same way as I did. Some of them got over it and continued with the band. Some of them, like myself, didn't give them a chance for a long time until they changed a little bit and went back a little bit more to what they used to be. Not that they ever really did that, but and then started giving them another chance. And then there was a group of people who were even further out than me, who just said, that's it, I'm done with the band, I don't want to hear nothing from them ever again. And they continued to be that way, And so for me, that's probably one of my biggest disappointments. There's a lot of them. And I'll be doing more episodes like this in the future, where it's basically me talking about something that changed for me with a band, or something that changed that made me go in a different direction, or made the band went in a different direction, or all those different types of things that happened that we call disappointing. So for today, it was Rush and this Grace Under the Pressure and the beginning of their synth era that kind of was a big disappointment for me. So if you've got big disappointments in some areas, let me know what was your big one, and maybe we can have an episode on that as well. That would be great. So anyways, if you like this video and you want me to do more like this, like at the bottom and subscribe, and we'll try to give you some content that's entertaining. Anyways, take care. This is Prog Monster out. Have a great day. Bye.